welcome to Above Replacement Radio. I am your host, Chris Gianta. You know what Christy Mathewson wasn't worried about? SIERA. When you're thinking about Pedro Ciriaco, I mean, the only one that can compete is maybe Hannes Wagner's 1908 season. Over there on the other side of the screen is Daniel Kern.
Like, if we just clip together every time we've talked about him on other people's profiles, we've done a Mickey Cochran episode.
I can't get past Rabbit Marinville. It's not necessarily Hall of Fame. It's not necessarily above average, but we can guarantee you we are better than just the standard replacement level college sophomore.
And welcome to Above Replacement Radio, where we're talking baseball kind of whenever. I'm your host, Chris Gianta. Over there on the other side of the screen is Daniel Kern. How you doing, Daniel?
Chris, I am doing well today. It's our second show in 3 days. And we have a decent amount to talk about. We had a bombshell of a story come out yesterday. We also have some unfortunate injury news, and we have a very wholesome team to look at for sure. Yeah, for sure.
I guess we'll start off immediately with that bombshell story. It came out in a tweet. Was it Doug Gottlieb who broke the news?
Something like that, yeah.
Who I think is an Atlanta writer. He got word that Freddie Freeman's agent pretty much withheld the final offer that the Braves were going to give Freeman because he knew Freeman would have taken that, which was probably less. We obviously don't know. We don't know exactly what the agent's motives were, but you can imagine that that Freeman would have taken less to be with Atlanta, and therefore the agent would have gotten less of a cut, because they get 10% of their salary or whatever. Pretty crazy story. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely good reason to believe that Freddie Freeman would have given the Braves a hometown discount in free agency. This is just such a depressing story because as baseball fans, I think we all wanted Freddie Freeman to stay in Atlanta, and we were all slightly heartbroken when he left town. Like, even if, we personally have no affiliation to the Atlanta Braves, we're not fans. Like, that guy is the Braves. He was there, he came up in the Chipper Jones era. He made the playoffs with the team in 2012, 2013, had some good years, then went through the entire rebuild from 14 to 17. And then, he was the face of that club from 2018 to 21 when they were in their championship window. And of course, it concluded with them winning the World Series, Freeman hitting the home run in the 8th inning of the clinching game to make it 7-0. His final at bat as a Brave. Joe Buck had to ruin that call. I don't know if you remember that, but as soon as the ball went out, Joe Buck was in what could be his final at bat with the Braves. It's now Braves fans have to listen to that forever.
Oh yeah.
And it sucks that the reason he didn't go back to the Braves was extremely, extremely preventable, not on the Braves or Freeman's side. Exactly. You would have hoped it was a thing of the Braves were only offering 4 years or something like that, or Freeman's price range was way out of the Braves price range, or if they just wanted to move on with Matt Olson instead of having a slightly older Freddie Freeman and more expensive Freddie Freeman per year. You would have hoped it was that. From what we understood, it was that. And yeah, I mean, I remember heading into last offseason, I wasn't even considering any of the Freddie Freeman talks. I considered all Freddie Freeman talks with other teams was just to get the Braves price up. And it probably ended up working. It's just this agent didn't tell Freddie Freeman. It's really bad, and it's very short-sighted by this agent who, I mean, I would imagine the motives are financially based. But if he's fired now, I don't think he's getting any of the rest of the cut of that Freeman contract. And, he's not really going to be able to represent anybody after this. He's definitely not going to represent. Yeah.
At least anybody
a
making $100
nine-figure free
million.
agent. We both just said the same thing, but yeah, especially someone with certain affiliations to a town, right? Like, I don't know. I'm trying to think of like free agents this year that like don't really have any specific affiliations. Like definitely not Aaron Judge. Like that guy, I'm sure Aaron Judge would a slight discount to play in New York. Maybe not a big one, but
Yeah.
you know, if it's a difference of a couple dollars, maybe a year at max, I wouldn't put it past him to take it. I don't know who's a free agent this year that like doesn't. I'm just gonna go with a last year free agent just because it's one I can think of. Starling Marte. Like
Yeah.
I don't think there was any specific team. Like I mean, between the Pirates, you know, the Diamondbacks, the Marlins, the A's, like I'm sure he has the most affiliations with Pittsburgh, but I can't imagine any of those four teams were gonna make a big push to re-sign him last year.
Yeah. I would say like
So like, you know,
Trey,
that's a fair one, but
Trey Turner.
Trey Turner, that's fair, but the Dodgers probably could go for him.
Yeah, for sure. It was a surprise to me that didn't seem to be any extension talks with him, but I guess that's another conversation. But yeah, it's very short-sighted by this agent. And yeah, it just nobody feels good after this. The fans don't, Freddie Freeman doesn't, the Braves don't, the Dodgers
I can't imagine.
don't.
Yeah, the Dodgers probably don't.
Yeah.
Well, how can the Dodgers feel good knowing that the big guy they signed very clearly doesn't want to be there? Like nobody wins here because the agent doesn't win. He got fired. He's not getting any of that salary now. Literally nobody wins coming out of this, and that's just the most upsetting thing, I think.
It's such a it's the anti-wholesome moment. It's so bad.
I think the only people you can make a case for is like fans of other NL East teams.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
Like if you're a Mets fan, it's like, oh, I'm glad that agent didn't tell Freddie Freeman the contract so that he got out of the division, or a Phillies fan or Marlins Nationals. But even then, I think they can see the bigger picture here.
Yeah, it is funny because this does seem like something that would happen to the Mets, but happened to the Braves instead.
Yeah, and I mean, it sucks, man. Like,
it's
kind of
crazy.
lost my train of thought for a second.
It's crazy. Yeah, it's crazy to think like he just found this out. He's got 5.5 more years with the Dodgers. It's not like this is, it was a big free agent contract, 6 years, $162 million.
I wonder,
you can't really move him.
I wonder how this leaked to him too, because no, you can't, especially with the Olsen contract. That's going to make it even more tough.
Yeah.
I could very well see maybe at the end of the contract, if the Dodgers aren't feeling it, they release him in the last year and he goes back to Atlanta, or just if that contract expires and he's still good enough to play, he goes back to Atlanta. Like I don't think, I'm not convinced that we've seen Freddie Freeman's last game as an Atlanta Brave, but I mean, he's going to lose 6 years where he could have been playing there, with a team that is competing.
Yeah, and it's not just the team. Like he made his life, in the Atlanta area. He has a family that he had to move to California probably, that he was kind of reluctant to do because he didn't have the correct information on what the Braves were offering him. So, very messed up. And I lost my train of thought a little bit too, but
I think this makes everything make a lot more sense for the Braves because, the narrative was, why wouldn't they go out and spend a couple more dollars on Freeman and move on to get Olsen instead? We now have our answer, and you know what? It makes perfect sense. They gave an offer that they thought Freeman would take. He didn't, so they were like, okay, we don't have a first baseman. Let's go get Matt Olsen and let's have long-term stability over there while we don't have Freddie Freeman. So at least the replacement isn't, someone that fans are upset about. And that was probably the best way that the Braves could have gone about it. But of course, through no fault of their own, they had to resort to that when they could have had something better.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it really sucks because like Freddie Freeman in Atlanta it made so much sense. He was there for 12 years. Um, and based on how this thing went, like maybe it was a 5-year deal, so he should have been there for 17 years, maybe 18 years, depending on
Mhm.
the contract situation. Um, but yeah, it's just a bad story because, as you say, no one wins.
Yeah, nobody wins. Like I would hate to be a Dodgers fan knowing that Freddie Freeman, like his heart is never going to be in LA.
Yeah, yeah, even like
Like like if you look at guys like Mookie Betts, like he came over from Boston, he was a different. His heart's in LA. Like that was, that's definitely a cool thing for Dodgers fan to see is we get this superstar and he clearly wants to be here. We get this superstar and through no fault of anyone's own in between the Dodgers, between Freeman, between the Braves, through nobody's fault, he doesn't want to be here.
yeah, it's yeah, yeah. And we haven't really heard of a story really like this, at least in recent memory. Um,
Mhm.
so yeah, very, very interesting. Very
The
interesting.
the like the agent and like the company he works for is filing a lawsuit or trying to take legal action against the journalist who leaked to this, saying that it was false information. And I have a hard time believing that. Like, I don't think it's a coincidence that this came out right after Freddie returned to Atlanta because you know what? He probably met with some of the Braves front office, catching up with them, and he probably heard this while there. Because I mean, it's normal for people to be emotional during their homecomings, but Freddie he was really, and you know what? Maybe it was because he had just learned of this information that he should be a Brave.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Like his heart was always there. Um, and he probably wanted to know what was going on there and why he couldn't sign. And I mean, like, I wouldn't put it past anybody to get some details of a story wrong. Um, however, by the looks of it, how it's been reported, yeah, it looks very bad. Looks very bad on all fronts for that agent. um,
I don't think it's a coincidence that this came out right after Freddie returned to Atlanta. Like, if this story came out in, like in early April when it was kind of random, it's like, oh, okay, that's kind of weird, but no, everything lines up here. Like, Freddie might have talked to someone when he was at Truist Park this weekend. He might have found this out. He might have talked to his agent and learned the truth. Fired him. I mean, Freddie fired him right after he went back to Atlanta. Like this story, like not only did this story leak right after he went back to Atlanta, but it came out after he fired his agent, and he fired his agent right after he went back to Atlanta.
yeah, yeah, um, yeah. As you mentioned, he was very emotional. I mean, I can imagine just being back in that ballpark, seeing all the fans that are still rooting for you, in their own way, uh,
Mm-hmm.
compared to being in a new setting in Dodger Stadium where you're the new guy. Um, yeah, I can imagine that it made him upset that he was not playing for the Braves.
Yeah, and we're gonna be reminded of this every year. By the way, I mean, like Dodgers and Braves face each other in the postseason, which is very possible. Hey, Freddie Freeman should be on this side. And they're gonna face each other twice every year. You know where Freddie wants to be. Um, and
Yeah,
yeah, like the Braves did everything perfectly fine. Like I don't blame them for the way they handled this situation because they were under the assumption that Freddie wasn't coming back under what would have been a good offer.
yeah, very true, very true. Um, well, do anything else on this story?
I think I said everything I wanted to. This just, like I said, nobody wins here.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Um, I guess we'll sandwich some wholesome content in between some bad news.
Yeah.
We'll go to the surging Baltimore Orioles.
Yes.
That is said a little bit tongue in cheek, but they have clinched their first winning month since August of 2017. They're the best last place team in Major League Baseball. They're six games below 500. They're 14-11 in the month of June. Adley Rutschman is developing very well, especially this month. He's been doing pretty well. Their pitching staff looks much better. They're really kicking some butt this particular month.
Absolutely. I mean, you just mentioned Adley. We've seen a lot of this with the big prospects this year. And this is kind of what we see with a lot of prospects, but the turnaround is happening very quickly where, the first few games are tough, but eventually pretty soon they start figuring it out. We've seen it with Bobby Witt Jr. We've seen it with Julio Rodriguez. We're seeing it with Adley Rutschman right now where, yeah, he does have a 694 OPS, but he had 10 doubles in the month of June and there's still a game to be played. Possibly. Yeah. I don't know if they're playing tonight. His batted ball profile is interesting. A 37% ground ball rate, a 22% fly ball rate, 29% line drive rate, 10% pop-up rate. That's got to change, but I mean, I think there's very good reason to believe that will change. He's pulling the ball 46% of the time, so he has no problem catching up to major league pitching, which is definitely an encouraging sign because I would imagine he's probably just seeing straight fastballs right now, 52% fastballs. So yeah, he's seeing that a lot more than usual, but no problem catching up to it, which is definitely a very encouraging thing to see at this stage of his career.
Yeah, for sure. And looking at the Orioles, individually this month, a lot of the players who are doing well are players you could see in future Orioles lineups, like a few years down the line. You start off with Ryan Mountcastle, who is hitting 297 with a 959 OPS this month. His slugging in the month of June ranks 12th in all of baseball. Trey Mancini's been doing pretty well. He's hitting 229 with a 782 OPS. Cedric Mullins has a 121 weighted runs created plus and 5 stolen bases. Austin Hayes has a 121 weighted runs created plus. Adley Rutschman is 6th in the major leagues in doubles this month with 10, and he has a 117 weighted runs created plus this month. So offensively, they have some guys who are kind of destined to be part of the Orioles' future, even if Trey Mancini is he's not super young, although I think he's still in his 20s.
I believe he's a free agent to be, but honestly, yeah. I think there's great reason to believe the Orioles keep him in free agency because at this point they would have first of all, I don't think they're going to trade him this year and the 1 year that they are, they're not, I don't think they're competing for the playoffs, but this is probably the best year that the Orioles have had since, you could argue 2016 record-wise, it'd probably be 2017, but I mean, the Orioles have something to root for, and I think it'd be weird to trade Trey Mancini now, even if it's the last to get value from him. But he's already stated that he wants to be in Baltimore. He's been through the entire rebuild through his prime years. His first year of service time was 2017. If he was gonna leave, I think they would have just traded him by now already.
Yeah. He would have had more value if he was traded, with more control on his hands.
I know the Brewers were pushing for him at the trade deadline last year, and the Orioles just didn't end up giving him up, which I have no problem with. That's obviously for on and off the field reasons, he's a very special guy in Baltimore. Was he a Roberto Clemente Award winner? I'm pretty sure he won the Roberto Clemente Award, or at least he was nominated. And of course, there was everything he went through in 2020 with the cancer diagnosis and the comeback that he's had from that, which has just been remarkable. He's been an easy guy to root for, even without that. But of course, you add that onto it, and he's one of the most likable players in the league. And I think that's a guy that a lot of people would want to see on a competitive Orioles team in the future.
Yeah, I would agree. I think Baltimore is kind of adopted him in a way.
Mm-hmm.
He competed in the home run derby last year. The year after he recovered from cancer. So yeah, I would imagine it. I could definitely see him sticking around for sure. And he shouldn't cost too much either. So I think he's in the Orioles price range as well. If we're wondering about that. But in terms of other Orioles succeeding, I noticed throughout the year, the Orioles bullpen has been something else. Like they are 6th in Major League Baseball throughout the whole year in ERA. The Orioles bullpen has a 3.22 ERA. They're only allowing 0.7 home runs per 9. And if you go individually, I highlighted Jorge Lopez last week. He's been outstanding, one of the best relievers in baseball this year. But also Dylan Tate has a 1.96 ERA, 2.97 FIP. Felix Bautista, 30 innings pitched, 1.50 ERA. I don't even know how you pronounce this guy's name. Cionel Perez.
Colonel.
I don't know. But
I think it's Colonel Perez.
Colonel Perez, whoever he is.
I might be wrong though.
He has a 1.14 ERA and in 23 2/3 innings pitched. Even Keegan Aiken, he's got 2.35 ERA. He hasn't really been known for being a great pitcher up to this point, but he has a 2.35 ERA this year out of the bullpen. He doesn't have any starts this year. And Joey Crable. Joey Crable has a 2.70 ERA in 26 2/3 innings pitched. So there's a lot of Orioles relievers succeeding. And I don't know. I think they're all on the younger side, and I think have some team control. So maybe that's something to build off of in the years to come, I guess.
Yeah, I want to talk about one of those guys that you mentioned, Felix Bautista. He's been one of the talking points in the Orioles since literally day one. Like I think Petriello pointed him out in like the first week of the year. He's one of those guys where if you want to see if he pitched that day, you just got to go to the StatCast like game leaderboards to see like the highest pitch velocity. And if you see him 5 times, he pitched. If you don't see him, he didn't pitch. You know those guys.
Yeah.
It's like Emmanuel Clase, Hunter Green, Felix Bautista is on that. He's in that tier.
Right. Yeah. Now I'm very curious to see
Ohtani.
what his numbers are.
Mm-hmm. Well, I can tell you since June 11th, which is the date that I'm referencing throughout this this segment, he's pitched 6 innings. He has 16.5 strikeouts per 9, 3 walks per 9, no home runs allowed. He does have a 4.17 BABIP, so his ERA is at 150 with a FIP at 0.46, which is very, very unlucky. But I mean, a 41% ground ball rate. He's doing well with that. Average fastball velocity of 99.7 miles per hour.
Oh wow.
So that's yeah. Yep.
Yeah, that's pretty wild. So yeah, that's someone who you like to have. He's a rookie this year?
Yes, I believe so. Either that, or maybe he pitched like a little in 2021.
Yeah, because I noticed when I looked him up on Savant, it said number 30 prospect for Baltimore. So That means he hasn't accumulated 40 innings in the majors yet.
No, he definitely has not.
So, and he's 27, and yeah, you're looking at someone who is a very much a potential late innings reliever for the Orioles. So he's very intriguing for sure. Well,
I want to highlight the rotation real quick.
yeah, go ahead and do that.
So, I mean, first of all, the Orioles pitching just as a whole leads the majors in FWAR since June 11th at 3.3. The Braves are the next closest team at 3.1, but the Orioles are on top, and that's a FIP-based stat. So that means they're doing the things that they can control right. And the the bullpen is obviously the highlight, but in the span, the rotation has the third highest FWAR at 1.9. They have a 3.45 ERA, a 3.78 FIP, excuse me. And there's no one that's like overwhelmingly good, but it's just you look up and down in this rotation, and it's just guys that are getting the job done. Dean Creamer has been probably the highlight in 23 and 2/3 innings throughout 4 games started. He has an 0.38 ERA. 0.38. He does have a 2.66 FIP, which is 2 full runs higher, but regardless of your ERA, you see a guy with a 2.66 FIP, and you're like, that guy's good.
Yeah,
there's no other way to look at it. Our player to watch, Tyler Wells. His strikeout rate has gone down pretty significantly, but the walk rate is still there. The home runs are okay. He also has a FIP that's 2 runs higher than his ERA, but you know what? You're gonna see a lot of that on the Orioles, I guess. When that's nothing specifically wrong with that, but this rotation isn't built to be completely dominant. They're just, they're meant to get the job done, and that's exactly what they're doing. Jordan Lyles, he's been doing okay. 723 strikeouts per 9, 289 walks per 9, 0.96 home runs per 9. His FIP is at 404, which is fine. Like it's acceptable. Spencer Watkins, he's only started 1 game throughout this span, but he went 5 scoreless innings with a 720 strikeouts per 9, 180 walks per 9, no home runs allowed. Everyone's just been getting the job done. Really.
Yeah, like just a very quality team effort from the Orioles this past month. Really just as you say, getting the job done, providing some hope. I mean, like, they've been in last every year except for 2020 since 2018. If that 2020 season went on 100 games longer, I guess it would have been more likely they finish in last also.
But even then, they had the 5th pick in the draft or something like that, in 2021. Just because they didn't finish last doesn't mean it was a big upgrade of a season for them.
Yeah, and I mean, it's funnily enough they'll probably still finish last this season. However,
but they're in the best division.
Yeah, they're in the best division, and I should do some calculations.
If they were in the AL West, they'd be fighting for second place right now.
That's true. They're currently on pace for 75 wins.
They're 30, which is encouraging. The Orioles are 35 and 42. The Rangers are in second in the AL West with a 36 and 38 record. So they would be fighting for second place in the AL.
Yeah, very true. Yeah, they're on pace for 75 wins. Obviously that's not in playoff contention. However, this is a team that won 52 games last year, and then the 162 game season before that, I think it was 54, and then before that it was 47. So they're doing 20. They're on pace to do 20 games better than they had been doing up to the season. And they still have quality prospects in the in the wings, Grayson Rodriguez most notably, and then also DL Hall
Is
is
Gunnar Henderson coming up?
what's his name?
Gunnar Henderson. He might not be ready.
Yeah, but is he
But I
top
know
one?
that
Is he
guy
top
is-
100?
Yes, he's a starting pitcher.
Yeah, I mean, like if the Orioles are able to develop some starting pitching, I mean, would be the first time in a
He's been in AAA for 19 games. He's played 19 games in AAA. He's slashing 329, 448, 629, 1077.
nice.
That is a
nice.
position player, not a he's a shortstop / third baseman, not a pitcher. That's my mistake. That's a guy that could be like a September call-up type of guy if they're really feeling it.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Yeah, they're definitely developing some players. And yeah, I think I think there's reason to believe, they're gonna reach like a 70 win mark this year. They're gonna keep developing over the next couple of years, and I guess it's good if you're an Orioles fan to finally see a year where they're probably not going to lose 100 games. Yeah, I think they've really been surging lately, so good for them.
Yeah, we're excited to see it.
Yeah, it's been too long. So
The Jeremy Hellickson trade that set the franchise back 5 years.
It did, unfortunately. All right, so do we want to get into the other bad news of the past week?
Yes, the other bad news, I guess, of the NL East, technically.
Yeah, technically.
The other one was NL East / West.
Yeah. Bryce Harper has to get thumb surgery. It's I know in the initial post it said the Phillies hope to have him back this season, which isn't, a good sign. That means he's missing at least a couple months. Really tough.
Fangraph says 6 to 8 weeks.
Yeah. I mean, either way, pretty tough blow for the Phillies. Especially, they didn't get out to the start they wanted to. They had to fire a manager. Currently, they're 2 games above 500.
This is
in what's been a competitive division and, a competitive playoff race. And yeah, like pretty big blow.
Yeah, this is probably the worst time to have something like this happen. Of course, you mentioned sort of the roller coaster season that Philly fans have already endured in the first 3 months here. You fire a manager because things had not been going well. Then you immediately start streaking afterwards. You get above 500. The team that's, in first place has been kind of coming back down to earth a little bit. You get within 7 games and, all of a sudden things are possible. There's still a long way to go, but there is that light at the end of the tunnel, but now you're going to have to go without your best player for much of the rest of the season. And yeah, I mean, that is a huge setback for this team.
Yeah, very much so. I mean, he's been the heartbeat of that offense. I mean, you could argue pretty much since he got there in Philadelphia.
Yes.
And I'm trying to look at the rest of the Philly statistics and Bryce Harper's, but Baseball Reference is not loading up right now.
I mean, who's been better since he's been there? No one.
Yeah, definitely no one. And like, I think the Phillies, they in their off season last year, I think they tried to get some offensive help. I don't think it's been quite what they wanted it to be in terms of offensive help, and Bryce Harper still kind of had to shoulder the load is I have some statistics pulled up now.
Go right ahead.
Yeah, Bryce Harper has a 985 OPS this year, for a 176 OPS plus. I mean, his OPS plus this year, I believe, is better than it was last year when he won MVP.
176. Oh, but that makes sense. Oh, actually, it's 4 points lower, but also his OPS is significantly lower because league stats are different.
Yeah, but it's the league, and he's been shouldering the load for that Phillies offense, and it's now that's taken away. You're gonna have to rely more on guys like Kyle Schwarber and Rhys Hoskins, who have been good this year. Nick Castellanos has been a bit disappointing, so guys like him are gonna have to step up, and I think guys like JT Realmuto on the offensive side are also gonna have to step up in Harper's absence if they want to succeed like they were before.
Yeah, I mean, we're gonna really see who the Phillies are, because I mean, baseball is obviously a sport where one guy can't carry a whole team. Bryce Harper's been doing his best at that for years, and obviously they just had their first above 500 season last year. We're gonna see who the Phillies really are in these coming months, because they have the talents to be able to tread water without Bryce and even really set sail. You look at Rhys Hoskins, Kyle Schwarber, Nick Castellanos has to get it going. Alec Baum has to start developing a little more. JT Realmuto. The pitching staff is obviously fine with guys like Nola, Wheeler, Gibson, Ranger Suarez. The bullpen is obviously the bullpen, but it's not impossible for this team to go on a run without Bryce. And if there's a time to really put more of an identity on this team, this is it.
Yeah, very true. Very true. I'm pulling up the standings now, seeing where the Phillies are at.
They're 8 games back of the Mets.
8 games back of the Mets. They're 3 games back of the Cardinals for the 3rd wild card spot. So yeah, I'm looking at.
They're in it.
Yeah, they're in it. But man, it's hard for me to see this Phillies team get much above 500 in Bryce Harper's absence. It's going to be a real challenge. I mean, so I personally, I don't expect them to meet the challenge of maybe potentially getting into a playoff spot without Bryce Harper. Like, when Bryce Harper comes back, them being in like the wild card spot or something. Personally, I don't expect that. However, if they do that, they greatly exceed expectations, and I will applaud them for that. But that's going to be very, very difficult to do. You're going to have to see a lot of guys step up, especially offensively.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, I think they have the talent to do it, but it's just a matter of if they'll do it or not.
Yeah, it's true. And I think also with Harper, I feel like I mean, this is just a feeling thing, but I feel like he's kind of developed into a leader with the Phillies. This is his 4th year there. I feel like people kind of listen to him, and maybe he's more of a lead by example type, but maybe he'll have some impact in the clubhouse still. I don't know. You can't really there's not really any statistics to back any of that up, but you wonder what his impact will be, maybe still if he's not on the field. But anyway, that's all speculation. Do we want to get into players to highlight?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, so now we get into our Thursday, June 30th, 2022 edition of How About That? Who do you have for us today?
So I'm looking at someone that I've talked quite a bit about on this pod just in its existence, and the fact that he's chasing something. I'm talking about Evan Longoria, who has been doing very well. And hey, Cooperstown, I don't think it's out of the question. I think it's very realistic that we could be having a fair conversation on this Hall of Fame case when it's all said and done. Since May 25th, the same sample that you used for your last. How about that? He is slashing 284, 398, 617 for a 960 OPS. He has the 6th highest weighted runs created plus among the 211 hitters with 90 plus plate appearances over that time. It's at 181. He is pulling the ball at a 43.5% clip this year, which is the highest rate he's ever had in the StatCast era. And when he pulls the ball, he is hitting 459 with an 892 slugging percentage and a 916 expected slugging. That average ranks 21st among the 385 hitters with at least 50 batted balls, and that X slug also ranks 21st. Has a 73.3% hard hit rate against sinkers this year. It's only on 20 plate appearances, but that's a lot. And that is the 16th highest hard hit rate among the 2,295 pitches with at least 10 plate appearances against any hitter.
Wow. Evan Longoria. Yeah, succeeding well on sinkers and when he pulls the ball. So working well for him, and good to see him having a bit of a comeback, because he started last year very well. He got on the IL. And I think after he came back from the IL, he kind of treaded water a little bit, but good to see him coming back and being at a similar level to what he was at the beginning of last year before his injury. How about that? It's a little interesting. It's a little, it's not my most analytical one, but I'm talking about Nico Horner. He's been pretty interesting the whole year. He has, what I will say about Nico Horner, he has the same amount of F4 as Pete Alonso. And, I think they obviously their skill sets are much different. Pete Alonso is a real slugger, but also a bit of a defensive liability. Nico Horner is kind of the opposite of a slugger, but great defensively. But they have the same F4. And Pete Alonso's talked about 2.3. Pete Alonso's talked about in the National League MVP race. Nico Horner is not. I understand why though. But yeah, Nico Horner, he's on pace for a 5-win season this year. That's very good. That's, in the National League, that'll place you like top 20. It's that's very good for Nico Horner. He is 6th in Major League Baseball in outs above average, and he is 4th in defensive runs above average. And then on the offensive side, he's hitting 304 with a 111 weighted runs created plus. And he is the only player this year in Major League Baseball with 10 plus defensive runs above average and a 300 plus batting average. Along with that, out of 206 batters with 200 plus plate appearances, his strikeout rate is 6th lowest, and his expected batting average this year is in the 97th percentile. He's hitting 304, but he's expected to have a 318 batting average this year, which is very interesting. And along with that, his whiff rate, his swings and misses, 95th percentile. When he swings, about like 85% of the time he's making contact. So good on Nico Horner. He's someone where he's never really going to amaze you offensively. He's not a power hitter by any stretch, but if he's if he's average offensively, he's that good defensively where he can be a very valuable asset. If he's just able to be an average offensive producer, his defense really puts him above, and that's why he has the same F4 as Pete Alonso, who's in the NL MVP race. So shout out to Nico Horner. He's getting a.
This is
Um,
very funny because when I checked to see if we had done a Giant yet, I was looking at the list and I was like, man, when are we gonna talk about a Cub? Like a second before you said that, I was like, when are we going to talk about someone on the Chicago Cubs?
when someone has 8 outs above average and above average offense,
Yeah. Yep.
a whole package kind of guy, Nico Horner.
I love that.
Yeah. Um, yeah, he was a first round draft pick too. Um, so
Yeah.
he was kind of a
One of
slightly
my
more.
one of my
Go ahead.
one of my favorite tweets that I've ever had was when Nick Madrigal got traded to the
Yeah,
Cubs, when it was like a middle infield with Nick Madrigal and Nico Horner. You ever heard of no doubles defense? How about no doubles offense?
yeah, yeah. um, yeah, Nico Horner. Yeah, he's interesting. I mean, yeah, he hasn't had a lot of extra base hits, but still
Never forget
11.
when the first home run of the season was him off Corbin Burns.
Oh that was a real brain twister.
Sometimes you just never know what's gonna happen.
Yeah, and also it's funny because opening day is like the day of overreacting. So people were like, "Oh, Nico
Yeah. Well, I
Hoerner's
mean,
gonna hit 50 home runs this year."
you tweeted a whole stat about Corbin Burns walking one guy on
Well,
opening
yeah,
day.
well, that was just funny to me.
Like obviously that does leave out a lot of context, but it does kind of exemplify the overreactions that happen on opening day.
Yeah, for those unaware, I'll still say it because it's very funny.
It is
Corbin
very funny.
Burns, last year it took him 127 batters for him to walk his first batter of 2021, and then last year it took one batter, or no, 2022 it took one batter.
Yep.
Which I don't think it.
It's very funny.
Yeah, it's just funny. It's just funny baseball things. But
That's all it is. Of course,
yes,
if Corbin Burns is still having an excellent year, it's not.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not even fair to compare it to last year because that was a once in a lifetime type season.
Yeah, and even like but even still, like ERA wise, I think he's like very similar, which is funny. Um and so yeah, I guess that'll take us to the players and subjects that are underperforming with our June 30th, 2022 edition of
Slightly alarming.
um who do you have for us today?
So my slightly alarming is a very similar type of player to Nico Horner. Like we know what to expect out of him, but he's been underperforming this year, and it's Adam Frazier of the
Yeah.
Seattle Mariners. One of the many reasons that the Mariners have been underperforming as a team. Overall this year, his 293 slugging percentage ranks sixth worst among qualifiers. I know that, when you think about slugging percentage, Adam Frazier is never a guy that comes to mind, but you need to have a good batting average to have a good slugging percentage. They're usually synonymous with one another because batting average goes into that. Since May 19th, however, he is slashing 164, 240, 209 for a 447 OPS and a 36 weighted runs created plus. Each of the metrics rank bottom 4 among the 173 qualifiers since then. His sprint speed has never been below the 53rd percentile in any year of his career, and this year it has fallen to the 37th percentile. So his speed has gone pretty significantly down over the course of 1 year, which is alarming because I feel like that's just usually not something that happens in 1 year. And if you're a guy like Adam Frazier that usually hits for contact and not much for power, speed is kind of essential. His BABIP on ground balls this year is at 125, and it has never fallen below 200 in a season. So, when you're hitting ground balls, usually speed's going to bail you out of that. A lot of the time, it's not doing it for Frazier. He is the worst BABIP on ground balls and obviously the worst batting average on ground balls. Among the 121 hitters with at least 75 ground balls this year. He also has the worst OBP, which if he has the worst batting average, he has to have the worst OBP. He's the worst slugging percentage, naturally the worst OPS, the worst weighted runs created plus at -31. So he has not been doing well there. And he's also struggled against off-speed pitches. His 105 batting average and his 158 slugging percentage against off-speed pitches this year rank 4th and 8th worst, respectively, among the 126 hitters with at least 25 plate appearances against off-speed pitches.
Yeah, Adam Frazier.
Slightly alarming.
Yeah, the sprint speed thing is very interesting.
Yeah, that kind of leads me to believe maybe he's playing hurt. I'm not a doctor, so I'm in no position to diagnose anything, but I don't know. How do you explain a guy just, maybe it is a thing with percentiles. I don't know exactly what his sprint speed is off the top of my head. I can check that.
Yeah,
But
potentially a thing where like there's more fast players in the league, but it probably has a little something to do with Frazier. But yeah, Frazier is one of those Mariners acquisitions that people were a little excited about.
I can just tell you this right now. So if we're going by, so he debuted in 2016. His average sprint speed by year, 27.8 feet per second, 27.5, 27.2, 27.2, 27.1, 27.1, 26.6.
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, it had been, I'm not going to knock him for having it gradually go down because that's probably extremely natural for you to, get slower as you age into your 30s. But I mean, that's a pretty steep drop off from one year to another. If you're looking at the rest of them, 27.8 down to 27.5, that's 0.3, another 0.3, stayed the same, went down by 1, stayed the same, went down by 0.5.
Yeah, not great. And like, if you're a contact hitter like Frazier is, if you have a lower sprint speed like that, your career is looked at a little differently and your longevity is looked at a little differently. So yeah, you almost hope it's an injury so that he can recover and run a little faster. And yeah, Frazier is one of those Mariners acquisitions where he was expected to be a little bit better. He was an all-star last year. He tapered off a little bit towards the end. But he,
his average 90-foot sprint, by the way, sorry to interrupt you, Chris, but his average 90-foot sprint is also at its highest point. It had never been above, well, I guess it was 4.8 in 2020. Never in a full season that had been above 4.3, but this year it's at 4.9.
Yeah, he's kind of on a list with Winker, Suarez, Robbie Ray of Mariners acquisitions who haven't been what the Mariners expected him to be.
No, but the Robbie Ray has been doing much better lately.
Yeah, I've definitely seen that for sure. He's had some good like 1-run, 0-run performances. All right, so that leads to my slightly alarming. A little basic here, but I'm talking about, earlier in the show we were talking about how Adley Rutschman has gone on a similar path of like Bobby Witt Jr. and Julio Rodriguez of having just a bad first couple of games or first like week or so, and then turning it around very quickly.
This better not be what I think it is.
A guy who has not experienced that turnaround is Spencer Torkelson.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. I thought you were gonna say O'Neal Cruz. I was like, dude, he's played like 5 games. Relax.
Yeah, no. Yeah, I can't. No, I couldn't do that. Not O'Neal Cruz.
Only the Pirates front office can do that.
Yeah. Yeah, just send him back down. Yeah, Spencer Torkelson in his last 23 games, he's hitting 156 with a 418 OPS. Out of 183 qualifiers in the month of June, he has the 3rd lowest slugging and 3rd lowest weighted runs created plus. Also should be noted, Torkelson has not hit a home run in his last 119 plate appearances, which is pretty alarming when, he was brought up as a power hitting first baseman. A lot of his value comes in being able to hit the ball out of the park, but he hasn't done that in the last 119 plate appearances, which is, about 20% of your year without a home run. Also, he has only had 3 extra base hits in the month of June. And overall, this year as a whole, he has the worst wins above replacement in baseball. So offensively, he's not been able to produce, and defensively, he hasn't been very good either. So Spencer Torkelson.
Slightly alarming.
So yeah, that does it for players to highlight. We will get into a preview of the weekend plus ahead, as this includes Thursday as well. I'm going to be talking about the series to watch. Daniel will be highlighting the day-by-day pitching matchups that are going on. In terms of series to watch, there's a couple. I will say that Blue Jays Rays, interesting. Rays have been kind of an average team lately with all the injuries they've had. The lineups they've been trotting out have not been great. Blue Jays have been decent as of late. They're both kind of around that in that kind of a traffic jam of second to fourth place in the American League East right now. But very well in playoff contention. That's a 4-game series that will be happening at the Rogers Center. And then we have the headliner series is a 4-game series between the Dodgers and Padres. A real fight for the top of that National League West. That'll be at Dodger Stadium. Great matchup there on the West Coast. So definitely check that out. What do you got for the day-by-day matchups?
So on Thursday, obviously a pretty small slate of games tonight. Shane Bieber will be going against Chris Archer in the finale of Guardians Twins, I believe. Yeah, they've been playing each other at Progressive Fields. Luis Severino and Luis Garcia will be facing each other in the All Luis matchup at Minute Maid Park. That's a 4-game set between the Yankees and Astros, correct?
Yeah, I think so. Well,
If it's starting tonight, it has to be. Yeah.
Would be funny if it just ended on Sunday or ended on Saturday.
Why is that not the Sunday night matchup? Like we were talking before the show, why do they give it to the Cardinals Phillies and not Padres Dodgers? Why don't they give it to Yankees Astros?
Yeah, what the heck and heck?
Why does ESPN? Why do they?
I don't even think the Phillies are that big of a team, yet they're on Sunday Night Baseball like 6 times.
And they're, I mean, not that it's ESPN's fault, but they don't even have Bryce Harper now.
Yeah.
Yeah, like ESPN couldn't have predicted that, but not only that, like other than like who gets people excited on the Cardinals? Like Paul Goldschmidt, Nolan Arenado, sure, but like Adam Wainwright is going to be pitching that game, but is anyone really tuning in being like, I gotta watch Adam Wainwright?
Yeah, no. Like
No.
you don't think old Paul DeYoung is kicking the tires?
Who's in AAA? No.
Oh. Yeah, I was trying to think of a standard Cardinal.
They don't have Tyler O'Neill. He's on the IL.
I was gonna say Tommy.
Anyway,
he's actually doing well.
But he's actually doing well. No. Yeah, Harrison Bader just went on the IL.
Yeah.
As well. Yadier Molina. He's not exactly a standard player.
Yeah, it's just weird. Like
they do have some low-key young exciting guys. Like if you're a baseball nerd, I'd understand why you're excited to watch Juan Yepes, but if you're a casual who's turning into Sunday Night Baseball, I don't think you care.
Because also, like, you can't even say, because sometimes a teams will play back-to-back weeks, and it's like you can only do one of them for Sunday Night Baseball. They didn't have Sunday Night Baseball. They didn't have Yankees Astros for Sunday Night Baseball last week either.
What'd they have?
A couple of baseball teams.
They did, yeah. You're absolutely right on that.
I don't know, but like,
I need to check. I don't even remember who the Sunday night matchup was last week.
I was not paying attention.
It was Dodgers Braves.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah, it was Dodgers Braves. Okay, but still, Yankees Astros, really?
It should be this week. Yeah, that or Padres Dodgers.
Like that's like, you know how many? Yeah, that or Padres Dodgers. that's a national matchup that people would tune in for. Yankees Astros, because you know what, there's so much bad there, even if it's all in the past and maybe people have been holding on to it for too long, that people are tuning in for that. And this is no disrespect to the Phillies or Cardinals, but like that's not a national story. Like you and I mocked beginning of the show. It's the 2011 Revenge series.
Yeah. Like
what are we
Well-
doing? It's supposed to be the national game of the week, but it's basically the one national game that people care about. That's that's on its own.
right.
Like ESPN does a Monday and Wednesday night game, but there are other games going on. The Sunday night game is we specifically pick one game that everyone can watch. There's nothing else on. Like you got to be watching this one. How do we make it Phillies Cardinals and not Yankees Astros or Dodgers Padres?
Yeah, it's so silly. Like, yeah, and that's basically your one opportunity to have the national audience. I mean, like, it's on ESPN, it's going to be at every like sports bar. People are going to be tuned in, and it's going to be Cardinals Phillies instead of Yankees Astros, which has been a national storyline for a little bit.
For like 2.5 years now.
Yeah.
Like maybe it has dragged on, but it's still alive.
Yep.
Anyway, Adrian Hauser and JT Brubaker will be facing each other in Brewers Pirates at PNC. Graham Ashcraft and Kyle Hendricks will be facing each other tonight at Wrigley. That's Reds Cubs. Graham Ashcraft, I think he's been pretty underrated this year. Joe Musgrove and Mitch White will be facing each other in Padres Dodgers. And Logan Gilbert will be facing the A's for the Mariners in Seattle. The matchup of the night comes from Braves Phillies. It'll be Ian Anderson versus Aaron Nola. That'll be a good one.
Yeah.
Anderson has been struggling lately, but he's looking to get back on track. On Friday, it'll be Canada Day, and Jose Barrios will be facing the Rays for the Blue Jays, of course, in Toronto in the red uniforms. Those are nice. I believe they started wearing them like just more than Canada Day recently.
Yeah, I've noticed.
Which is cool.
Yeah.
Miles Michaelis will be facing the Phillies for the Cardinals in Citizens Bank on Friday. Max Fried and Mike Minor will face each other in Braves Reds. Corbin Burns and Roansy Contreras will face each other in Brewers Pirates. You will have Chris Bassett facing the Rangers for the Mets. It's a former division rival of his, of course. Garrett Cole will be facing the Guardians in Cleveland. Merrill Kelly and Antonio Senzatella will be facing each other in Diamondback and Rockies. You will have Trevor Rogers and Josiah Gray facing each other in Marlins and Nats. That's a slightly alarming end date. How about that? Michael Lorenzen will be on the mound for the first time since that brawl, or not the brawl, the game before the brawl, which kind of sparked it, I believe. Or no, sorry. He faced the Mariners like a week before. Anyway, scratch what I said. Michael Lorenzen will be facing the Astros in Houston. Spencer Watkins and Joe Ryan will be facing each other in Orioles Twins. James Caprillion and Marco Gonzalez will be facing each other in A's Mariners. Lance Lynn and Alex Cobb will be facing each other in White Sox and Giants in San Francisco. And matchup of the night comes from Padres Dodgers. It'll be Blake Snell versus Tony Gonsolin.
Nice.
And then on Saturday, you will have. I'm just waiting for. Okay, Jordan Lyles and Sonny Gray facing each other in Orioles Twins. You will have Matt Liberatore and Kyle Gibson facing each other in Cardinals Phillies. That's match for the night. I'm going to save that. You will have Patrick Sandoval facing the Astros for the Angels. You will have Brady Singer and Alex Fado facing each other in Royals Tigers. Otherwise, not a thrilling matchup, but those are two interesting guys for sure. Young guys. Paul Blackburn and George Kirby will be facing each other in Athletics versus Mariners. Martin Perez will be facing the Mets at Citi Field for the Rangers. Tyler Mahle will be facing the Braves for the Reds in Cincinnati. Josh Winkowski will be facing the Cubs for the Red Sox. He's been an interesting arm in the early goings of this season, his career, so to speak. You will also have Yu Darvish and Tyler Anderson facing each other in Padres Dodgers. Dallas Keuchel and Austin Gomber facing each other in Diamondbacks and Rockies. I forgot Dallas Keuchel was on the Diamondbacks.
Oh yeah,
He actually,
me
he actually
too.
did like okay his last time out. And you'll have match of the night comes from White Sox Giants. You'll have Dylan Cease versus Logan Webb.
Ooh wee, gotta love that.
Yeah, that is a good matchup.
That's a good
And
one.
on Sunday, the last day of the week,
Yes, that's correct.
you will have Bo Brisky facing the Royals for the Tigers in Comerica. Pablo Lopez will be facing the Nationals for the Marlins. I almost said the other way around. Jose Quintana will face the Brewers for the Pirates. John Gray will face the Mets for the Rangers. Luis Castillo will face the Braves for the Reds in Cincinnati. Tyler Wells and Devin Smeltzer will be facing each other in the Lucky Bowl. If you look at their numbers recently, that's been them. You have Lucas Giolito and Anthony Discalfani facing each other in White Sox and Giants. Mackenzie Gore and Clayton Kershaw on Sunday for the Pirates and Padres and Dodgers. The Frankie Montas, Robbie Ray Part 2 will be taking place. And Adam Wainwright will be pitching on Sunday Night Baseball against the Philadelphia Phillies. Match of the night. I think this is an underrated one. Comes from Diamondbacks Rockies. You got Zach Gallen versus Chad Cole.
Yeah. Adam Wainwright against the Phillies. Who's he facing? Cole Hamels.
Yep.
He's got Cole Hamels.
Funny thing is, he wasn't even there in 2011 for the Revenge series.
Yeah, yeah. That's why I tried not to go with like a specific 2011 guy.
I guess Yadier Molina or Albert Pujols.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. What's Albert Pujols' numbers against Ryan Madsen? Got to look for that. Got to do the scouting report. All right. Well, that'll do it for this installment of Above Replacement Radio. We hope you enjoyed this one. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify and want to watch the conversation as it happens, or just go to some shortened clips or check out the history series and its playlist, just go and subscribe to the YouTube channel. It's called Above Replacement Radio. Also, if you want to follow us on social media, follow me on Twitter at Chris_Gianta, follow Daniel on both Twitter and Instagram at Daniel_Curran, and follow the show Instagram at Above Replacement Radio for all the show needs. We hope you enjoyed this one, and we hope to see you next week, where we will be talking all the happenings in Major League Baseball. Once again, see you then.
This conversation is over.